Welcome back, folks, to the Mel Wright Show. This is episode 257. To say I've been looking forward to this interview, we've got a returning guest, listeners and viewers. We've got Peter back on the show. So I'm going to let Peter introduce himself to you, listeners and viewers. He came on the show over a year ago. I think it's like 18 months ago. And I've been thinking I should have him back. And then I finally got him back on the show. So Peter, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, greetings. Nice to be back on the show. Thank you for having me, Mr. Denwood. And just for those of you out there who are not sure who the hell is this other dodgy sounding English bloke, I am a broker, owner of a fierce indie in Los Angeles called PLG Estates. We tend to cater to the kind of more creative clientele of LA. And
that's a diplomatic way of putting it, Peter.
Well, part of my job's being a diplomat.
Yeah, it is,
Jonathan.
Yes.
And then I also host a show on Netflix called Stay Here, and was a former record producer, house music all night long. Had about 50 number ones between the UK and the US, and then I like to take long walks on the beach and enjoy chocolate. Apart from that, I am just a regular Joe, as they say.
Yeah. He laughs at my jokes, listeners and viewers, as well, actually, unlike many of our guests that look a bit kind of shocked when they're exposed to the English humour. Actually, Peter actually gets it. And I've got my beloved co-host, Robert, with me. Robert, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Make sure you get your details correct, Robert. Yeah.
I know. It's a little bit embarrassing that I got your name wrong. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, our paths have crossed, but we'll figure that out in a little bit. But
I was acquitted.
I'm the founder of Inbound Real Estate Marketing, which is a company that focuses on lead generation through SEO for real estate agents. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to inboundrem.com. How is that for concise, John?
That's great. So as the start of the interview, Peter, let's start off with a dismal start. Let's talk about the pandemic and, doom, disaster and darkness. So how has it affected your own brokerage the last 5 months, and how do you see the till the end of the year things panning out, Peter?
Well, on that cheery note, let me jump in. So, funny enough, I was slinging houses back in 2008, and I remember really the sky falling back then. And in March this year, obviously, as things began to explode, I'm like, ooh, this feels familiar. This feels kind of like 2008 again. And I looked at my missus, who's my partner in the business, and I'm like, here we go, get ready. And what happened, certainly for me and for LA, I don't know what it's like for the rest of the country, but for LA, what happened was everybody took a breath. So at my firm, we probably close, I don't know, I'm ballparking somewhere around 50 deals a month, right? And I expected them to start dropping out, like canceling, dropping out.
Well, literally dropping, maybe.
Literally dropping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I haven't had that happen, thank God.
Yeah.
But what happened was really, really extraordinary. Everything seized up in March, like no deals closed in March. And then as the pandemic increased and rates dropped, the real estate buying public in LA were like, it's okay. And I have actually seen these have been the busiest months. April, May, June, July, August have been the busiest months I have experienced in real estate since 2005.
Wow. Amazing, isn't it? Over to you,
It's
Robert.
a banner year, as we say in England.
Yes, yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
It is indeed. So, Peter, you got into real estate around 2005, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that was the years leading up to the pandemic. So I do have a question for you, which is probably kind of like an outlier, but at that time you were an agent, or did you get right into the business as a broker?
In 2005?
Yeah.
No, I joined as an agent. I kind of shuffled in the back room of Keller Williams. I didn't really know where to go. I went and looked at a bunch of offices, and they all felt like morgues. And then I walked in this Keller Williams in this part of LA, and they had these pretty artistic pictures on the wall. And I'm like, well, at least there's a glimmer of artistry here, because I'd come out of the music business, so I was surrounded by colorful people and big personalities, and then I walked into all the brokerages, and it felt like I was walking in a bank. And so I joined as an agent because I've always been very, very techie. And I was in the music business professionally since I was 16 years old. And it was a long road, and it was great, and it was fantastic. I regret nothing, and I did well. But then I saw the music business was about to have a cataclysmic change, right? I heard about MP3s before they were even called MP3s. And I'm like, okay, I've been in the game for about 18 years now. So I'm going to kind of get out while I'm on top. So I retired from music, had a #1 in 12 countries in the dance charts. And I'm like, great. And I took the money that I'd made, and I don't really know where this came from. I'm originally from Leeds, even though my accent is a little bit kind of smashed to pieces now. And I remember my parents always saying, oh, there's money in property. There's money in property.
There's money in property.
And so I was like, okay. And I remember working with my pal, Juan Martinez, who's a really talented producer here in LA. And I said, I got this check, and I feel like I want to go get a new car, or maybe I should buy a house. And he said to me, you should buy a house, Pete. And those were some of the best words that were ever said to me. So I bought my first property, and I guess I was flipping before flipping really was a thing. And I bought it in these areas that everybody thought they were shithole kind of parts of LA.
Right.
But I kind of knew that the areas were close to other areas. And I'm like, well, it's just a question of time before this pops. And so I started investing, did well. My music business, people saw what I was doing. I wasn't the only one trying to throw a rope over the wall of the music business. So then I am doing a live podcast. Do you want to say hello to everybody on Facebook? This is my son.
Hello.
Hello.
COVID homeschooling.
There you go.
And so a lot of my pals who just didn't relate to most people in real estate, they related to me. And I built my client base from that. And that's why I got my license. And then I'm a very binary dude. I'm all in or I'm all out. And I was like, if I try and do music and try and do real estate, I'm going to fail at both.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of reached the end with music, because I knew it was going to collapse. So I'm like, I'm just going to throw everything I've got into real estate. And I kind of had a bit of a knack for it. I found the creative way to do it. And I worked with my tribe, and it was great. And I tried it the way I was instructed, and it was very well-intentioned instruction, but it just didn't work for me. So I did it my way, and then I ended up being the #1 Keller Williams agent in LA after 5 years.
What is your way?
My way is only working strictly within a road that is narrow, meaning I will not bend, I will not pander, I will not do scripts, I will not mimic the way someone's speaking to me. I will not do any of that horse shit, because for me, it just doesn't work. I do take my fiduciary responsibility extremely seriously. So if I'm working with someone and I'm mimicking their body language and I'm doing scripts, I'm abandoning my fiduciary responsibility. My fiduciary responsibility is to be absolutely raw, honest, transparent, put my neck out, guide them, even if I'm wrong, if my intentions are correct. They're looking at me to walk them out of the wilderness. They're not looking for me to play in the middle. And so that was my secret. I was very just balls to the wall. I was like, I know you want to buy a house in this street, but you know what? I think this street is dog shit. So let's kind of go over a couple of blocks, because I just don't like the fact that, they're putting in these really dodgy new homes. And a lot of my colleagues looked at me like I was bonkers. I was told to play in the middle. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. If I'm gonna fail or I'm gonna flourish under my own volition. And if I don't fear failure. If I failed, I'm gonna go off and open that surf shop, an espresso bar on China Beach in Vietnam. That's plan B.
Sure.
So
which you've never had to take, because if you're the #1 Keller Williams office in LA, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I did well. I actually was very surprised, and this is no joke. I went to this ceremony. My office manager said, "You're getting an award," and I'm like, "Okay." He said, "You have to go." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go." So I went to this big hotel, and I sat in the back, and they said, "I'm the #1 Keller Williams agent is," and they called my name, and I'm like, "What?" I actually couldn't believe it. And then a few weeks after I got that, I saw an opportunity where, again, I'm binary. I'm all in or I'm all out. I'm like, I just got the #1 status in LA of a company that's got a pretty good rep at that time. And so then I took that #1 status and I formed my own company.
Okay. Which is PLG Estate. For those that are listening, it's PLG Estates, right?
Correct.
So if you're going to leave a brokerage and you're going to do something on your own because you're leaving the security of a bigger brand and you're going out and you're being entrepreneurial, I've always thought that the only reason that you do that is if you had a different marketing vision and you had a different training vision than the corporate company. Was that true in your case?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I hated everything corporate. I don't like doctrine, right? And my way isn't the only way here, right? Real estate business, it's full of all flavors, all sizes, all everything, right? There isn't just one way to do it. My way, which works for Peter and won't work for all of your listeners, is I always like to dance to the beat of my own drum. Because if I'm using generic this and generic that and generic colors and generic videos and generic this, I'm generic. I wanted to create my own marketing from scratch, which I did. My own brand from scratch, which I did. My own flavor from scratch, which I did. And again, I didn't fear PLG failing. If it failed, awesome. I'll go get the corner office at 99% at the local Keller Williams office.
I got you. And so how long has PLG Estates been a thing?
10 years.
And I can see that you've got 30, is it 30 agents? Or is it?
Nearly 200.
200 agents, okay. So 200 agents, 10 years later, doing it your own way. What is like one of the #1 marketing principles that you, let's say, talk to your agents about? Like, I can tell that you're fiercely independent and it's going to be authentic, and that's what I'm picking up is like, be yourself, be authentic. But is there something that you instruct your entire 200 agent team to do? In
yes.
terms of, what would that be?
Don't do anything generic.
Okay.
I also tell them online leads come last. That all the deals I have ever done, not all, but I know it's a statistic anyway, that, and I hope I'm not blowing holes in the podcast here. I'm just giving my opinion.
Sure.
86% of deals come from people you know, right? That's just a NAR statistic. So I spend 86% of my time contacting my sphere of influence. And I teach my guys to do the same. And I teach them not to do drip campaigns. And I teach them not to do generic postcards and market reports. I teach them to have personal one-on-one interaction with every single person in their database who they can remember something about. Because I get prospected all the time by plumbers and roofing companies and, lawyers and whatever. But when a friend of mine, well, not even a friend, somebody calls me up and they go, "Hey, Pete, I'm an electrician and I worked for Les Thompson and, Les always said nice things about you. So I wanted to introduce myself because Les is retired now." Boom, that guy's in. He's in. He's my electrician. I'll at least give him a shot.
Okay.
And that's my philosophy on how to attract business.
Okay. And so I haven't cleared this with anybody, but do you mind if I ask you what the numbers are for PLG. So you got 200 agents. You're here in Los Angeles. What was your gross whatever sales? Or
We do about $500 million a year.
okay,
Maybe more.
okay. And you're all over the world, because I'm on your website and I'm seeing chateaus in France. So you're not just here; you're everywhere.
I have I'm like the French Resistance. I have an underground network of independents across the planet.
Okay.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Au revoir. Cul-de-sac.
Some more.
And you know, listen, you can tell that I'm very polarized in my belief system, right? For right, for wrong.
Sure.
I'm like the guy in the trenches that is fully committed to going over the top when I blow the whistle, and I will lead the charge. Now, we might all get shot, but if we do, I'm doing it with absolute commitment to my people.
Right.
Sure.
We're gonna go for our break. When we come back, I'm going to be asking Peter about his technology stack. He said he didn't like drip campaigns, but I'm going to ask him about how important is his digital marketing, i.e. his website and other digital assets to his company and to his marketing outreach. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. Got a friend of the show, Peter.
Hello.
And he's been telling us about his way, his approach. So Peter, you said you don't like these drip campaign systems, but how important is your digital marketing, i.e. your website and other digital outreach, you know, your social media, and what is some of your technology that your brokerage relies on to assist your agents in dealing with clients and maybe doing outreach to clients?
So, great question. When I say drip campaigns, I guess what I mean is I don't like generic drip campaigns, but I do like CRMs.
I knew exactly.
I do like CRMs where you can load them with interesting stuff that you've created or what's the word I'm looking for? Procured. What's the word? What do people do in art galleries? What's it called? The person that puts the art show on? Curator.
Yeah.
Right.
Curation.
So I curate myself stuff that I think is really important to my people, and then I might slide that into a CRM. Once a month they get shot something of interest, right? We do have at PLG, which is not Peter Lorimer, but at PLG we do have a newsletter because I think it's important to let our database know our sales, right? We still have to promote our sales. But the number one thing and I'll get into the tech stack in a minute, because there are some things that I really, really like. I believe the most important thing for us to promote right now is social media. That's the gate of entry. The port of entry for everyone, certainly in LA, is Instagram and Facebook, a little bit of TikTok, a little bit of Snapchat. So my ethos is start there, because people are going to look up your Instagram account first in LA. If they like your Instagram account, they're going to click the link in your profile to go to your website. So I think websites are very, very important. I think the job of a website has changed, right? Because the attention span of people has changed. 12 years ago, right, we'd go on a website and we'd read every page, right? We'd be like, about us and this and that and this and that. Now, to me, a website needs to be digestible in 12 seconds. I need to go on and go, yep, got it. And if I want to then go to properties or maybe 2 or 3 other pages, I don't think we need like reams and reams and reams of information anymore.
What do you mean by I've got it?
Meaning I need to be, I call it and I never do this, listeners, but I call this, I need to be able to understand this in the fast lane on the 101. Right? That's my rule of thumb for tech. And if someone sends me, like I get hit up, as we all do, by companies that are promoting their products, and they'll send me a long email with 10 paragraphs and then a link to a video that's 45 minutes long. I'm never watching it. I'm not actually getting past line number 3. I represent, I believe, the way that the mindset of the public in LA, I don't know about the rest of the country, is. Everybody's moving very quickly and they have zero patience. So if I'm looking at a product or a person or a company, I need to be able to know there's a phrase that I learned, this is actually from the BBC. This is an old TV phrase, and it's a product you and I know. I'm going to send you a $1.50 gift card to Starbucks if you get this right, Jonathan. Name the product when I give you the hook.
Right.
Does what it says on the tin. Ding, 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 ding. Ron Seal.
Ron Seal,
right?
yeah.
Ron Seal.
You
do you want to call a friend?
You're a bugger, Peter. You are.
Do you want to call a friend? Oh, you don't have any friends. So
it's so obvious, isn't it? Actually, I just live in my basement, my mother's basement. I don't actually live in America. It's all a lie, folks.
All a lie. Right. And so it does what it says on the tin is something that I live and die by. Now, part of this
You're not related to Trump, are you? You know?
Quite the opposite. I'm actually quite related to Obama. Yeah, he's my boy.
He's my boy.
But what the thing, being an old, I don't want to. I mean, I'm just rattling now. But being an old songwriter, the way that I used to write songs, I was signed to EMI Publishing as a songwriter, and I always had to start from the hook and go out. Right? I'd start with a great hook. She loves you, baby, whatever the hell the hook is. And then I would build the song around it. So when it comes to reviewing people and products, if it doesn't do what it says on the tin in 12 seconds, they haven't sold it to me. Yeah. So I'm out.
Yeah.
And so my company, what we need to do, what I teach agents to do is do what it says on the tin in the briefest amount of time possible. Because if you get this, I don't really know. I'll come back to that later. You're done. You lost them.
Yeah. Well, it's old saying on websites, you know, people, when they're making apps, they tend to sell features. People don't buy products for features. They buy products because out of fear or out of lust, basically. Or they buy something because it's going to help them with a problem. It's a problem solver. So you got to tell them how you're going to solve their problems, and you got to get. And I suppose that's the same with real estate. You got to really explain pretty quickly why you're better than the competition. Why a client should care, really, shouldn't you?
Yeah, interesting. And I'll come back to the tech stack in a second as well. That's another thing that I teach. I teach never worry about the competition. You know, I come from, I normally have the book lying around, but The Science of Getting Rich, which is a dreadful title, but it's a great book by William Wallace.
Yeah.
Is, for me, the cornerstone of how to do business, right? Always give more than you expect to receive. Always go the extra mile, even if you don't get something back. And there is always enough for everyone, and competition doesn't. Competition should not drive the market. Right? We can aspire to be the number one agent. We can aspire to be the number one brokerage, but there is more than enough for everyone to get everything they want. And so I never teach the agents to go out and say why they're better than someone else. I teach them to go out and say why they are perfect for the job.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. So I don't worry much about the competition because there's not much I can do about it. I can only do things about my own performance.
Right.
I can't do anything about the competition. And if somebody disappears, only another competitor will appear. And they might be a more efficient competitor. So I just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So your tech stack, what do you use in your brokerage and what do you like? And maybe you can give a quick insight, something you thought was going to be the bee's knees that didn't actually work out that well.
Okay, I can. All right, so I'm a big fan of having a small arsenal of tools. I find when there are too many tools, one gets lost, right? It's like, what is this? Does this do that? So one of the tools that I love and adore and was an early adopter of as soon as I could get my hands on it was Real Scout. I think Real Scout for the agents is banging. If you're an agent and you don't know what Real Scout is, Real Scout gives you the ability to insert yourself between your local MLS and the buyers. And they still get all the listings, which look beautiful and far more beautiful than they do in LA, sent from Real Scout. But then the bonus is you get to see who looked at what, how long they looked at it, and how many times they looked at it. So if you have a 20 or 30 buyers that you're working with, now the mystery is gone as to who is actually active and who isn't. So it allows you to focus your efforts on the people that are maybe your A's and your B's, and then the C's and D's you still cater to, but you know that they're not quite moving as fast. So the mystery of who's a real buyer is gone. That's number one. Everybody in the brokerage has that. I also got the suite from HomeSpotter. So I've got HomeSpotter mobile app, which is white labeled to PLG. Mm-hmm. Along with that, I got Boost. And then I also got Spacio for open houses. So all of the guys get that.
What does Spacio do then?
Spacio is an iPad-based open house sign-in sheet, which of course we can't use now. But and what it does is it sets up clients on alerts, and you get alerted when they're looking at something that you've sent, right? And it's normally related to the house that they came and saw. And it kind of auto prospects people at open houses for a minute. So that's good. And then you transfer them into Real Scout.
Yeah, can I just quickly just ask you a quick question about open houses? You know, I'm still a big, you know, obviously in the pandemic, you can't do them. So you've got to do virtual open houses maybe. But without a pandemic being there, I'm still a great fan of open houses, but so many in the industry really shit on open houses. They really say they're a total freaking waste of time. They're really totally negative about them. But I think they're a great way of building up your database if you've got a process, which you have. Right. So what's your... Do you agree?
I love them.
You still love open houses?
I love them. And I love them for a whole multitude of reasons, which is I'm still a practicing agent as well. My wife and I, we do, you know, we do lots of deals a year ourselves, probably, I don't know, 50 to 100 deals a year. And I look at it as an opportunity for me to then get some of the newer guys who don't have business. They can sit my open houses, and whoever walks in is theirs. You know, I know some agents, and I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. They have junior agents sit their opens and then take 50% of the buyers they find. Never been a fan of that. I'm like, if somebody's going to give up their Sunday, because it's not just 3 hours, it's 5 hours, right? It's getting ready, putting the signs out. It's the whole day.
Yeah.
If somebody's going to give up their day whilst they're trying to get a foothold in the industry, they should get the whole commission. And so I'm a big fan of it. And in LA as well, I don't know what it's like around the rest of the country, but people like to come and look at things incognito in LA. They'll go and look. Everybody is an agent, but they'll go and look on their own and then call the agent and go, you know, I like 123 Green Street. What do you think? You know, so I think the market is better with opens.
Yeah, right. Thanks for that. That's a gold. I totally agree with you. And you heard it from a really successful broker. Open houses still work, guys and ladies. Back onto your stack. You know,
yes. So obviously, a social media manager, I think, is something that everyone should have. Social media, by nature, was something that was organic, and we were just sharing our thoughts and pictures and what have you. Obviously, now it is. I look at social media as that, but also as your own personal PR company. And so we should be planning out our social media calendar weeks, if not months in advance. So not every little post, but I think if you're an agent, you need what I call the anchor posts. You need at least 3 real estate related posts a week that are informational, that are great, that are thought through, that are concise, that give information that people can't find on their own. And then around that, you can have puppies and coffees and, you know, ballroom dancing and what have you. So Hootsuite is great. I like Iconosquare. I mean, there's a million. Those are the two that I use.
Yep.
And then if you are video editing, now I have been a big video guy for a long.
It's something we keep plugging all the time, Peter, on the show.
So if you go on iPhone, which I'm speaking in now, it is a ridiculously fabulous, beautiful interface for recording video. And then all you need, I know this sounds a bit dodgy, all you need is one of these, right? This is a Shure MV88. It plugs in the iPhone. You stick it on a selfie stick, and you have got a full-on, semi-professional video suite. And then if you really want, because I'm a big Final Cut guy on my laptop, I just switched, and I actually moved to Luma Fusion, which is called Luma Touch now, on my iPad Pro, because I never liked being chained to my laptop. So now I have all my videos that I'm editing in this. And when my brain is just melting from being on calls or showing houses or sitting with agents, and I just need to kind of do something different for a minute, I'll break this out and I'll edit 10 minutes of a video, and then I'll put out a vlog 2 to 4 times a month, which I know people watch, which is where I get business from.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show, Peter, because I like to keep it at about 30 minutes. But it's okay. You could stay on for another 10 minutes. That'd be between 10 and 11. I would imagine you giving us an hour of your time. Peter's extremely busy, and I do appreciate him agreeing coming on the show, because I know he's dealing with a lot of stuff at the same time because he's a successful broker. So we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Peter, what's the best way for people to find out more about you, your ideas, and what you're up to, Peter?
So I live on Instagram, and you can go to @Peter Lorimer. That's Peter Lorimer. You can just Google as well, Peter Lorimer, and I should pop up. There's me and a dodgy soccer player that pop up. Yeah. I'm not the soccer player.
No, he's not the dodgy soccer player.
But that Instagram is the best way, and then my email is peter@plgestates.com if you want to reach out through email. But
and it's well worth following Peter, because he's still got a really active, even though he's successful, he's still hungry, he's still very active in his comments and in his views. So it's well worth still following Peter on those platforms. So Robert, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and your views and what you are up to?
You can always find out more about me at inboundrem.com.
That's great. And if you want to see the bonus content that we're going to just have with Peter, the best way is to go to the Mel Wright YouTube channel. Do a search for Mel Wright, and you'll be able to see the whole interview on YouTube.
I want to throw a wind up into there, though. I think that if you're okay with it, what I'd like the bonus content to be, because I know every single agent that's ever been an agent has always wanted their own show. Peter has one, so I want to ask the question.
Oh, yes.
Had one. I want to ask the question of, did it generate you business? But let's save the answer.
We wait for the answer in the bonus content, like I say, which you'll be able to see on the Mel Wright YouTube channel. We'll see you next week, where hopefully it's going to be a great internal discussion about tech and real estate between me and Robert, or we'll have another great guest like Peter. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Over to you, Robert. Ask this question: did being a star of TV, has it helped at all?
If I'm understanding it correctly, you had or have your own Netflix show called Stay Here. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and the show focuses on doing rehabs and making homes into Airbnbs and such. Did I understand?
Correct. What it does is it was a show about Airbnbs that were failing.
Okay.
Think of it like I'm the Gordon Ramsay of Airbnbs. I go into failing Airbnbs, rework the business plan. Genevieve reworks the design. We relaunch. They're successful. Got you.
Okay. So one way or the other, you had a major platform, and
I just want to interrupt. Was it normally the purple walls and the sacrificial altar for children in the actual house.
You can't stay
that
focused for a second. Not 1 second.
was they some of the key areas that stopped them being successful, Peter?
You know, some of them were just. There was one that I loved. Right, these poor people. They bought this boat in Seattle, right? A houseboat that was on the Sound there up in Seattle, and it was a romantic buy, and it was this old beat up kind of houseboat, and it was just a disaster. The toilet blocked, and they got one Airbnb person for one night in ownership of 2 years for $100, and they left. And it was just, they were obviously, pardon the pun, you know, out of their depth. And it needed us to come in and just kind of like, I came up with the whole marketing plan and how to launch it and how to sell them as a product on Instagram and Facebook and using REO and pay-per-click and what have you. And I'm happy to say that it's been a roaring success. Those people turned it into a massive, massive success. It was one of the most booked Airbnbs on the lake. And then they sold it, and I believe they've moved to Canada. So it gave them an opportunity they wanted to move to Canada, and it gave them an opportunity to.
Why?
Well, you know, I like Canada.
I do as well, actually. I've got a Canadian co-host for my other podcast, actually.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I love Canadians, actually. I was only being sarcastic there. Sorry.
Right. And so, as far as did it generate work, what it did is like the $1 million listing, right? I know all those guys.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Peter, but Robert's got to the stage where he's questioned why he's my co-host. I can see that look on his face. Actually, so I'm going to let Robert ask you the next question. Right?
All right, go shoot.
He's almost ready to answer my question. If you would just let him.
Yeah. So,
go ahead, Peter.
You know, those guys are $1 million listing, they're my mates, right? I just did. Okay. I did 2 deals recently with Josh Altman and the British boy. We're all pals. We all work in the same areas of LA, and I see them all the time, and they're actually really lovely. So that's a different gig, right? $1 million listing is about multi-million-dollar properties in LA. Mine was about Airbnbs. So I got absolutely deluged with Airbnbs from around the world, which I am in the midst of kind of assembling a whole separate business regarding Airbnbs. So what did it do for my business? What it did for sure was galvanize the message that PLG has been talking about for all of these years. Do I say it put us on the map? It didn't put us on the map because we were already on the map, but people went, okay, I can see that. I can see why that happened. And then for my own personal business, yes, it impacted my own personal business in a very positive way. I got deals from strangers. I got deals from people in my deep, dark sphere of influence that I had not been in touch with in years. It's incredible, the reach of the show. Netflix, I guess people just see it. People just see it, and it has helped a lot. And LA, love it or hate it, LA is a city that's based on entertainment. So if you've had a show on a major network, it just ups your stock value. So it has helped a lot.
Well, that definitely answers my question. So if somebody was aspiring to try to get onto a show or do a show or maybe even create their own YouTube show, let's just say that they're not Peter and they don't have all the connections here in Los Angeles. Maybe they're stuck trying to create their own brand somewhere in Indiana, for lack of a, what would your advice to that person be?
So the genesis of me getting the show is applicable to this question.
Okay.
I had no interest in doing a TV show. I was not talking to people. I was not developing one. I had no interest. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't interested. It was not on my radar at all. What was on my radar was video. And I was doing lots and lots of video in real estate at a time 2015, 2016, 2017, when other people were not. And Netflix didn't find me through one of my connections or through an agent or through someone I sold a house to. They found me on YouTube. And they called me up and they said, we've been looking for someone like you for a long time. We stumbled across your YouTube channel. Would you be interested in hosting a show? And I thought it was a mate of mine having a crack. And I was like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I was just, the best advice I can give to anyone is, the reason I got that show is because I actually didn't, I'm not going to say I didn't care, because I did care. But I'm very much I'm always in zero expectations. That doesn't mean I'm not ambitious, and it doesn't mean I don't have goals. I have massive goals and massive ambition. But my expectations, I am divorced from. Because if I expect and hope and plan that I'm going to get something and I don't, it devastates. You know, it's a natural feeling to feel like disappointed or devastated, which I was in my earlier career. Now, when I don't get something, I'm like, that's the way it's meant to be. There's another opportunity coming. So when they approached me, I was like, well, shit, I ain't got nothing to lose here. Let's just go for it. And so I just effed and blinded my way through an audition on Skype. And I'm like, right, well, I'm sure they're going to have a giggle about that. And then they called me back and they said, we want you to do a chemistry test with the host. I was actually speaking at Inman that same week, the same day. And I said to them, I'm terribly sorry, but I think you're going to have to get someone else, because I never thought I had a chance of getting it. And so I said, I think you're going to have to get someone else. Best of luck. Been really nice meeting you all. You take care, yeah? I'm speaking at Inman and I just can't, I'm not going to walk off stage and do an audition. And so they said, oh, okay. And so they moved my audition to the end of the day and they flew me down from San Francisco. And again, all the time, I'm like, well, this is great. I'm getting flown down by a telly company, and what a crack this is. This will be
It's a terrible life, isn't it? It's a terrible life. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, well, you know what? This is a great story for the kids and my children. And then I went in and I'm like, great. You know, don't know this girl at all. Didn't know anything she'd done. And there was a load of people there with headphones on and, you know, writing clipboards. And I'm like, this is great. I'm going to have a right old crack for the next 10 minutes. And so I was just unashamedly, this brings me right back to my very first comment. I was unashamedly nothing but me. I didn't care if they signed me or not, because if I was going to fail the audition, I wanted to fail it 100% because they don't like Peter. Not because I was trying to be something I thought they wanted me to be. And they called me 2 days later and they said, well done. You got it. And I'm like, what happened to the other two blokes? Because there were these two other blokes there. Really good looking, cut, you know, geezers. And I'm like, I'm way old. I'm way fat. I'm got this right dodgy accent. There's no way this is going to happen. And they said, what do you mean the other two blokes? They said, we cast 200 people around the planet for this role. And nobody's cut it. And I'm like, where were you looking? Prison? And I'm like, I just come out with these punchlines. And I got it. The rest is history, as they say.
Can I just, because we're coming up to the hour and obviously you've got to be off. I just got one quick finishing question. I get a lot of agents that I interact with and they are suffering from what I call the secret agent syndrome.
SAS.
Well, they don't realise you've got to be out there. You've got to be out there on social media. You've got to be out there on video. You've got to be out there socially. You've got to be building up your database. If you're not prepared, you're introvert or extrovert, doesn't really matter. You just got to be out there. And if you can't do that, you're in the wrong industry. How do you get that across to people that are joining your organisation, that they have got to be prepared to get out there?
What I do is, Jonathan, I show them, I'm a big fan of leading by example. And so every time Cindy and I close a deal or you know, whatever, every time we close a deal, not every time, but a lot of the time, I will give them the Pete Lorimer 1, 2, 3 punch of how to grow your business. And it is number one, create social media that is unique, that is only you, nothing generic, right? No like little templates and shit you can find online that's graphics that move around. Nobody gives a toss. They care about you, right? They want to weigh you up, whether they like you or relate to you. So create social media that is you in your business, right? Walking through a house, we've all got to do it. But then also, you know, you rock climbing or scuba diving or skiing or being a raver, whatever it is, you do social media about that. And then you take that social media, and then you create a custom audience from your entire database. You upload it into Facebook, and then you pay for sponsored posts to make sure your entire database is getting your top 10% of your posts. Then you just sit back and wait for the business to come in. No, it doesn't happen. After you have then promoted yourself and your product to your people, you then need to prospect. And you have to call them or DM them or email them or comment on their posts. And you need to ignite conversations with people that you know damn well have most likely seen a post of yours of quality recently. Because when I do it, they'll pick up the phone and go, "Ooh, I just saw that video you posted of you and the family in Sequoia. That was great. Oh, thanks, mate. So how's life? You know, now you're having a baby. What's the drill? You know, you probably need to get a bigger gaff." That's it. That is the secret. 1, 2, 3.
I totally agree, Peter Lorimer. It's been a pleasure having you on the show again. You must come back and not leave it so long. I think we've covered some fantastic topics, and you've given some real great advice about how to be a successful real estate agent in 2020. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next week.
Nice meeting you, Peter.
You too, Robert. Namaste. Namaste.
Yeah.
Bye, fellas.